because we're recording what's happening. So, I wanted to talk today about some of the processes with marketing. I wanted to start kind of reviewing some of the ideas and content that I'm seeing out there and what people are saying. So, the reason why I'm trying to talk about these topics so much is because a lot of people depend on different types of gigs. And I myself, for one, am one of those people. I've talked about those gigs on podcasts before. I've talked about reality-based group. I've talked about EPMS, Ellis Online. I've talked about Uber Eats delivering. I've probably talked about Postmates back when you could do Postmates like with a moped or like a bicycle or something. And I used to actually use a car and I did it that way. And yeah, I guess one thing that a lot of us are coming across with gigs is that they're not as reliable lately as, the face of the economy kind of changes, as we see all these economic shifts. Um, you see more scams, you see more scam jobs, you see more interview rounds trying to get employed, and then a bunch more people getting laid off, people talking about it. It might just be my algorithm, because I don't know. Part of me sometimes wants to search like the other side of the algorithm and be like, let me try to like adapt it to tell me other stuff and send me other like all like completely opposite types of content. Like, so if somebody's saying the economy is bad and the job market is bad, are there any people out there saying that the economy is good and the job market is good? No, I'm not really seeing that. So it's maybe a silly example, but it's kind of one way where I'm like, okay, I don't think it's just the algorithm and clickbait. I mean, it could be, but I do try to look at multiple sides of stories, and I'm not really seeing that specific side there. So, as I'm outdoors hydrating, getting some sunshine, we're going to be talking about this. So, but not about those specific topics. I want to talk more about like reviewing some content that I see. So, one piece of content that I've been um, looking at. So, Rich UX, he's been a freelance marketer, um, you know, kind of small business and freelance YouTuber for quite a few years. I'd say of all the people that time forgot, he's one of the few, other than what Biaz used to do, one of the few that actually has like legit proven details of his work. Um, Now, I'm not here to talk about the clickbait stuff because, if you want to find people talking about is dropshipping dead and then they show you their Shopify stores and how they're making millions of dollars. But there are always like things that these people forget to tell you. One of those things is, well, how much money in advertising did they put in to get that amount of money? And how much of the revenue is actually profits? Because I could say that I'm making $1,000 a day, but is that profit? Because to make $1,000 a day profit, you have to be selling things, and by the time you kind of break even, you need to have $1,000 that came out of profits. And that's break even not just on the sale. I'm talking like shipping, subscription costs, advertising fees, extra hidden fees, if it's Shopify or eBay or whatever you pay for your subscriptions. If you've got a website, you're going to have probably like an annual domain name cost. You're going to have, some kind of hosting monthly cost or however often you pay for hosting. If you need supplies for shipping, if you need to pay for gas to go to the post office, you know, um, if you're paying for any kind of subscription whatsoever that's helping you with that work, and gaining some kind of a profit, you're basically, dipping into whatever you made. Um, and so everything after that is profits, not just like what you paid the post office and what you paid the item. Like when you're selling stuff online, a lot of times you're gonna have that issue. If you're selling it out of a garage sale, that might be a little bit different because people are coming to you. So it's like, okay, maybe you could put how much you spent in poster board, markers, tape, and maybe you put an ad in like Craigslist, and maybe you put a little thing in like a local newspaper. I don't know what people do nowadays with that, but with newspapers, but or maybe you're at a farmer's market. You probably have to pay a fee to get your stall, and however much you're paying in gas and parking, and that doesn't even account for time and energy spent, if you even think it's worth all that time and energy at the end of it all. But for example, I have a friend who, at a flea market can make $60 in sales for working like half the day. But I don't know all the details. Like, does she pay for gas? Like, did she buy a whole bunch of stuff? Like, is she breaking even? Is she profitable? I don't really know. But things like that, where it's like, there's plenty of YouTubers out there that are saying that they're doing so much stuff, and maybe they are, but there's all this other like hidden pieces of information that they kind of forget to tell you. And when you're not, very familiar with this type of content, a lot of times it seems like they're saying things like, usually people don't share their URLs. I'm probably not gonna believe them too much. If there's anything they could have photoshopped, if they don't like refresh the page, if you don't see maybe like a timestamp at the bottom of the page, if you notice that timestamp is over like 3 different days, and then it's changing, and they're making it seem like they're making these sales overnight. Some of the interesting stuff that Biaheza talked about, and he doesn't seem to be posting that anymore, which is why I stopped talking about it, but some of his methods are pretty relevant still. Like, I'd say if you adapt it to the modern day, a lot of his old content, you could find like a newer way to do it. But just kind of watching and listening to how he used to do stuff, that is an interesting thing to see. But I wasn't necessarily talking about him so much, but I just wanted to mention that he did have proof of different barriers that would come up. Like, I remember some of his videos where he was trying to do like something on like TikTok Shop or some kind of like platform, where he got some kind of violation or some kind of error or something, but because I think he either had a direct phone number to someone or had a previous account that he could use, or there was some loophole that he had that the common person would not have had access to that. But he talked about it, but he was kind of like, oh, I wasn't getting approved over so many days, and my time was running out, because I guess he wanted to do his project in like 5 days, see if he could win. I don't know, I'm making an example. See if he could make money on like some TikTok Shop campaign in like 7 days. But I guess for like 3 of the days he wasn't able to even post anything. But he would usually show how much he paid in ads. All those costs aren't relevant now, they've all increased. He would usually show how much he paid, how much he got profit, all the steps along the way, and kind of like what may have gotten in the way, different barriers. And he would kind of explain what he did to change that, or how he got past it. But I did notice that because he's kind of like a famous YouTuber or popular YouTuber, he did have access to stuff that, like, if my next door neighbor was trying to do the same steps, that person may have had to wait 2 weeks or 21 days or 30 days to get a response, versus like 2 days getting a response back because he had access to some kind of special line. I mean, I don't know my neighbor that well to really say that they don't know how to do that or couldn't do that. But I'm just saying, sometimes, you know, when you're not used to watching that kind of content or consuming that kind of content from these different e-commerce creators, um, or freelance creators, um, you kind of don't really know that it's not true, and you see a number and then you spend so much time and energy trying to replicate what they did and wonder why it's not working, and then you have to buy their course, and usually their courses are incredibly expensive. I remember Biahez's course was like $291 or $191 or something affordable. It was an affordable class, and I took it, and it made sense, and it just showed you what to do step by step. It's not available anymore. A lot of the details are probably outdated, but it was a very good class, and he taught a lot of just like how to at that time how to run like ads on like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok Shop. What products he kind of revealed some winning products, or ways to even like source them and find them and figure out about them. And he had access to all kinds of stuff. But now, I mean, this was like before Temu was popular, before Amazon had a bunch of stuff that was just like knockoff or like non-name brand, like cheap products coming out of China, before Amazon became like drop shipping basically. Um, you know, it was kind of more of a golden age. But I did talk in some episodes about that kind of content that Biaheza did when it was newer. But let me shift focus onto what I actually wanted to talk about. I'm just mentioning Biaheza's stuff just so if you need a point of reference, that's the name that I'm referencing about some of these past types of topics, kind of where I started learning about stuff and where I started distinguishing between like who was legit and who wasn't. Because sometimes when you're trying to find content, a lot of people prefer to provide content to you that's not even helpful to you, it's helpful to them. They want the clicks, they want the course subscriptions, but are you gonna make money at the end of the day? Like, if you're not seeing case studies or you're not seeing examples of things, sometimes it's hard to really believe that these people really have the proof that they're saying that they have. And they're able to kind of fake it long enough that people kind of just don't know what to do with it. But Rich UX, so my journey with his content, you know, I've subscribed to a couple of his classes in the past, never really took it that seriously until I saw him doing the Course Careers course. Now, what I subscribed with Rich UX, I believe initially was a class on, it was like a trial, whatever his free trial was, and I signed up for one of his Create Your Agency courses before it became, I think it's called OPMA, before it became OPMA AI. And then I think I've had a couple of his free trials. Now, when I was taking Course Careers Digital Marketing, because I liked the tech sales class so much, I went and did the digital marketing, because that was always kind of a dream of mine to kind of learn that kind of stuff. And I went to do digital marketing, and Rich UX was the instructor at that time. And the class was straightforward, and it kind of went through kind of, I don't remember if it was like how to build an agency, how to freelance, but I know the class took a different direction sometime shortly after, and it became, instead of digital marketing, it became like basically digital advertising, and how to basically do SEM. There were some people that were doing SEM. So I will eventually talk kind of about Course Careers too, because I guess with Course Careers, what I'm realizing is with digital marketing, I have not seen that many people finding work. And I signed up for it a couple years ago, and they've gone through maybe 2 instructors, if not 3, on that same digital marketing course. I know tech sales went through the original guy who's kind of like the face of the company. He was teaching tech sales, and then I think Trent Dressel was next. I don't know if Trent Dressel's still doing it or if there's like another guy. Like I know on the Discord there's some other person. But digital marketing, that class is, I would say, in my opinion, to try to get work, it's maybe not worth it, but to try to figure out your own kind of methods of creating money and income for yourself, at least if it's going to be like on a smaller scale. I don't know if you could expect to make a livable wage, but if, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I mean, it would have to line up like the right product or service at the right time, and you know enough information and have enough funds to kind of put behind it to kind of get rolling and started and be able to kind of like start doing it from using that class. And then like I don't know how you could do it for free necessarily, because the class is already going to cost money, and then I don't know how you could do it without spending on ads, AdWords, Facebook ads, any kind of ads, without putting any kind of promotional money behind it, and just organically doing social posts, unless you've already been organically posting and you already have like a lot of traction. I could see that potentially working in somebody's favor, and that would probably be the best person for that class if you're trying to kind of build your own business, or sell your own stuff, or promote your own social media and stuff. That class would be helpful for that. But I haven't seen anybody hardly getting work. I don't even think I've seen 10 people that have LinkedIn, that have any kind of like proof, other than a couple of YouTube videos. I think I've seen 4 or 5 YouTube videos over like 3 years, 2-3 years of that course being available. Maybe it's been available for 4 years by now. So I don't think, I mean, I've seen the most with tech sales, and maybe after that kind of like the IT support help desk stuff. But the IT support stuff goes more through like Josh Madakor. So basically they've taken like YouTubers who are big and successful, and they let them teach these courses. But the one with Rich UX teaching digital marketing, he kind of taught a different angle. And I would say one thing also that's worth it with using Course Careers is because they adapt their courses to the modern day. Like when I first started these courses, none of them had anything with AI or anything like that. Now they put new lessons in there about that. Anything that kind of changes, they kind of update it. Versus if you were to go into a school, I think Josh Madakor is the same. Versus if you were to go into like a school program, you're using textbooks that have the core information, the background-based information, but it does outdate. And if you don't have an instructor that's like telling you all the brand new methods, you might be spending time doing homework and assignments just for the sake of submitting coursework that might be outdated. But some of the outdated stuff, it's still theoretical. It still holds pretty firm. Like you'd be good to kind of still know like the theory behind it all. Like even if you were gonna learn about like magazine advertising, or newspaper advertising, like it's not the most up-to-date method that people use for advertising, or I don't know if anyone would solely depend on that. But say if you have like a niche group, like Hasidic Jewish groups or something, and you're from that culture, and they're kind of like less interested in modern technology advertising or having access to some of the modern technologies to be able to go through smartphones or go through, I don't know, social media or different, you know, I don't know what you would call it, like just different like websites and things like that. Like they're depending on what part of the culture they're from. Some of those groups of people, they do depend more heavily on like their own like radio shows that you can dial in by phone and listen to, or like certain types of media that's used to like block the media that's mainstream because they don't want to know it because it's not something that they feel like they need to focus on for their own spiritual reasons. So they are very like strict, and so they might use magazines, newspapers, things like that within their community. There are other groups, cultures that maybe don't, a lot of times they're kind of religious or faith-based groups that don't really want the mainstream kind of involved. Sorry about all the planes and motorcycles. But I had to get some vitamin D, guys. I can't be like sitting in front of a computer all day long inside the house. So I come out here. But yeah. So that's just kind of, when you're looking at kind of something that's almost obsolete, it's not always fully obsolete, but if you're taking a class that's like teaching you that kind of stuff, that's probably not the best way for most people to spend their time. But I wouldn't say like you wouldn't never need it. Like it's still like valuable information. Just maybe if all your projects were based on like newspaper ads, that might not be the most modern information you're getting. But there are some old tried and true methods out there, and a lot of it you kind of just shift into the technology of today, and it still kind of holds. So it helps to know about sales. Anything where you're learning about sales through courses, that's going to be helpful. Any type of digital marketing and freelancing, that's going to be helpful. I'd say stay away from the clickbait of the make money fast. Like, you can make $8 billion in like 6 hours. It's like, okay, and these people just happen to be on YouTube telling you how to make $6 billion in 8 hours, and they're doing it, and this is how they want to spend their time, is by telling you to do it, and then you find out all their money's coming from their courses. So unless people are being more transparent, you probably don't really want to follow what they're saying. I've used a small amount of transparency on my platform when I'm talking. I kind of talk about the start of projects. I don't really tend to like to keep talking about them forever. But I might start doing that. I might start talking about following through with some of the stuff. It's just I don't have all the details in front of me. So Rich UX, he's starting on Mondays. I mean, he has been doing this for a while now. It's not like he just started. But on Mondays, he's having these freelance live streams where he talks about different topics. So one thing he's recommending in one of his videos with the title, I don't have the title. The title is, let me see if I can find the title. Freelance Marketer Case Study. What I actually do for my, I think it's called $3,000 a month client. And his handle is Rich and Niche, RICHANDNICHE, or you can search Rich UX. Now he, I think, was a YouTuber out of Canada, and I believe he now lives in Paraguay. He talks about his reasoning behind it. And he has like he has kids. I don't think he had kids when he first started. At least he didn't mention them if he did. And it's understandable. Not everybody wants to be talking about their kids. And I don't think everybody needs to be sharing all that personal information either. So Coastal, he talks about this case study with Coastal Metalworks. It's this Metalworks guy. Basically, it's like this man who does metalworks projects, and he makes these, mostly right now it looks like he's making these docks, these custom docks of various sizes out of certain metals and flotations, and you could probably look it up, but it looks like he's making, in revenue, $2 million in revenue generated in less than a year. Rich UX shows him doing a call with the owner of the company on just one of the sales, where I think it was it was like over a $1 million sale. I don't remember if it was like 1.2 million or something like that, where they just had signed a $25,000 I guess it was a deposit that was going to get to them that day, and then I think it was in a week or two they said they would be getting 300,000, and then the project was going to be up to like $1 million, I guess, once it was delivered. And I don't know how much of that was going to be profit, but that was in August of 2025. At the moment it's April 2026, and that video that he posted, the one that Rich UX posted, was it April? It was 4 weeks ago, so it was like within the last month or so. Alright, we've got the BMX kids out right now. I think they're trying to make some video content of them jumping over stuff. So, if you hear them talking, there's people down the street from me talking. So anyways, that's kind of the main thing I would say is like, one thing to focus on is, case studies for sure. So if you can build case studies and you're trying to get clients, that's pretty much what he's recommending. So he has the initial content that he was working with, and he actually didn't have a whole lot of ads, to be honest. But the initial content, it looked like it was like generally, like, he had this website and landing page that was pretty simplistic. It just kind of had a little bit of information, contact form. It was pretty general. It just kind of showed what was available, and kind of explanations of kind of the different tiers of things, and then a contact page if people wanted to request a quote or talk about what they might want or their interests. They could basically just submit a contact page and they would get the emails and they would respond. So the content that he posted, he says Rich UX is saying that he's posting like once a week. He's posting content. I don't think he said how much he was posting, but he has a few maybe like Instagram posts with video footage, some pictures with explanations. It all leads back to the website that has the landing page. He shows some ads. He shows some keywords or AdWords that he's like purchased, and I think he said altogether he spent, I think the spend was like 6,000 something dollars over all time for running some of these ads. Like some of the more expensive campaigns were costing like $1,200 um, for running multiple weeks. Um, and then he talked about more of like, he has another separate video that talks about like Meta ads, Facebook ads, like his updated tutorial on how to like how he runs his ads. And then he has the emails that show the leads generated and basically some metrics with that. So that's pretty much the case study that people can view. And it sounds like he's still actively working on this for about, he says up to from 1 to 2 hours a week, making $3,000 a month. So, and that's just one project. But he also has this, I know he's got income streams from his course, and he's got income streams from this freelancer make your own agency course. And I know he offers some more personal support, like one-on-ones. I don't know if they're paid. I'm gonna assume they are. I know there's some trainings and things that he had on one of his original courses. Those that one tier, you have to pay for a different tier to have access to those. And I think they also have like a consultant team, because I've briefly been contacted by different consultants that were when I first signed up for the agency course. Now I'm not necessarily saying look at his course and sign up or don't sign up. I got it at a very discounted rate, and so at that time I was like, well, let me just buy it because I wanted it, and then I'll just have it. But I don't think I've really used it, and it's not because it's not valuable. It's just because, I had other gig work, and it was good enough for me to not really want to really feel any need to branch out or anything. But now that the gigs have dried a lot, like for example, I used to be able to do these apartment gigs maybe one a week easily. That would be like at minimum 160 a month, $40 a week just for one. If I did 2 a week, it would be double that minimum. But now it's like, if I want to, like the ones that are listed today, there's one in Long Beach and there's one in Venice Beach. The Long Beach one I think would pay $65, but it's because it's the end of the month, so they're paying more, and it is a specified person. And then the one that's there's one in Venice Beach that you can contact any of the leasing professionals. That one's also $65, but it's farther from where I'm at, so it would be like double the time to get there compared to the Long Beach one for me. But also, like it's still money, but it's not like it was. Like it's hit or miss now. Like I can't guarantee, even though those are there this week, I would be surprised if next week had the same options. Like it hasn't been very fruitful in a while, since at least mid-February. That's the last time I saw like a lot of them where you could just take your pick, and ever since then it just kind of dried up. So even if I check it every day, it's not like it was before where I could just like put 2 on my list a week and just call them and then make the appointments and go. Reality-based group is kind of the same. You can't really get the gigs right away. You kind of need a way to get, I guess, like qualified to do them. You can't just easily sign up, I don't think. There's some kind of barrier, a little bit of a barrier there. Whereas before you could just sign up for it, for whatever gigs, and click them and do them. So that's reality-based group. yeah, Uber Eats is just not gonna happen. Not with these gas prices and the car that guzzles gas as much as it does. Such an old car. Like it just doesn't logically make sense for the time, unless I just happen to be out and happen to catch a delivery while I'm out. Like, it doesn't make sense to kind of it for a while. As it made a lot of sense to sit out on the road with it. Um, but yeah, so those kind of things, they dry up. So I'm like, okay, well, let me circle back around to some of this other stuff then. And so I've been looking at some of the updated information, and just getting back with eBay. eBay for me is kind of one of the easier things because you can just play around with promotion percentages and get the fees taken out and just basically sell pretty much whatever. Like, that's kind of like the easiest route for traffic, in my personal opinion. eBay and Craigslist, I mean, they're maybe not the best, but if you have like a burner number that you can attach to stuff, like a burner email that you can attach to stuff, that's kind of, I think, the easiest thing to kind of just set up straight away. Now, I don't know if you can sell digital services on eBay. I'm curious. I wonder, because I don't know if you can do it on Etsy either. I know some things, they have like a minimum, but I think on eBay, if you have a store, so if you're using Shopify or WooCommerce or one of these online stores, then you can connect a certain tier of eBay to a store, and then you could basically, I don't think you can use your domain name officially, but I think you can put a banner up, and your banner could probably have your website name on there. So some of the stuff that you can't really sell easily on eBay, you could probably take it and sell it elsewhere to avoid Vero restrictions. I don't know 100% if that's accurate, but I want to say it might be accurate. But with the Rich UX content, he's starting to post a lot more now. He wasn't posting for a while there, but this isn't his only income stream. I mean, this $3,000 a month for this one client isn't his only income stream. It's the one that he's talking about, but I just mentioned a bunch of other income streams that I know he probably has through at least 2 types of courses. They have multiple tiers. He has, the consultants, I'm pretty sure he probably gets money back from them. I don't know if they're independent contractors or if they're paid employees of his, or what the pay structure would look like, but I'm pretty sure he's probably not just like letting them do volunteer work. I'm pretty sure they're getting paid, and somehow he's getting paid off of them. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying he's got more going on than just what he's talking about, but he is, in a way, still promoting his courses through showing the proof of what he's done. But he doesn't often show a lot of proof of what he's done, at least not with the free content I've come across. So that's one thing that I'd be curious to know. I mean, I'm not knocking the guy. I have no reason to knock him. I'm just saying I've liked his content for a really long time. I've used this stuff as far as like educational. I've used some of it on a professional level, but not as much as I'm probably about to start doing. Because, it would be a lot better to kind of, to kind of just like make more on the side. I'm really just a huge believer in having multiple streams of income to work with, because at least when one goes down, you'll be able to have another there and have an alternative source of income Um, Either you can beef up spending more time on it, or at least if you have like the bone structure of something already set up, at least if you want to start doing something else, you're not having to start from scratch. Like when I started, for example, getting back with eBay stuff, like I haven't really been doing it for probably like a couple years at this point because I got pretty mad. And if you want to listen to my rantings about all that, they're all on the Game and Compute podcast, talking about the VERA restrictions and my whole process with it right before Black Friday of 2024. And I got so mad that I was just not, I was just like, I'm over this. But, you know, right now my goal is to post, not just with eBay, but post per day anything that is clickable that could potentially lead to $100 profit per day. Now that's not saying that I have products that are worth $100 profit a day. I'm just saying that's the goal of posting enough content. That was my goal pretty much this week. Post every day, enough output content, not just input content, but output content that is just one click away to landing a sale. That was the goal for this week. Every day post one. So between multiple streams, not just eBay, I have at this point multiple posts that I've put up that have traffic that can get to them at least $100 a day worth of profit. It could be more than that, but $100 profit per day of something new. Not saying, oh, yesterday I posted two $33 and one $35 profit items, and then seeing that maybe that this isn't true, but maybe, for example, those eBay, you know, like the campaigns on eBay are gonna last like 3 days or 5 days. That's how long the bid is on for. And so I'm writing that out for 3 or 4 days. Like, no, every day is gonna have to be $100 worth of stuff. So whether that's digital or services or anything like that, it's all gonna lead to somebody buying something. Potentially. I'm not saying I've put all the advertising into it yet. I'm just saying I'm posting it. And if there's nothing already advertised to it, I'm posting it somewhere on social media. Somewhere. To at least get that social media kind of rolling and some traction on that. But that's definitely one thing I've seen as we really aren't lucky today with the sound quality. But I need fresh air. So yeah. So yeah, you want to be posting on social media. I mean, you want to see what your competitors do. There are just so many things. I'm gonna eventually make episodes where I'm breaking this stuff down into more specific details and strategy. But before I get to that point, I kind of just want to lay out a bunch of stuff that's just like the framework of topics. Because at this point, I'm just kind of like, you know, I like to talk about what I'm working on. It helps me to kind of see kind of where I need to go with it. Helps me to brainstorm. So we'll be continuing to talk about these topics, but for now, you know, that's kind of what I wanted to say, is just encouraging people to, you know, if you're trying to get different streams of income and what you have isn't working, try a different route. but stay away from the clickbait about it. You know, I'm not like some fancy person where I'm like flashing all this money around, but I will say that I do try to at least post stuff that I know I've proven at least once, if not more than once, and that it's legit and it's doable for people, and it's not something that's going to be completely just terrible forms of work or terrible forms of gigs um, that just lead you nowhere. You know, I'm not trying to lead people down this kind of like rabbit hole of like thinking you're gonna find some success at the end of the rainbow, and all you know is that you spent a whole bunch of money on a bunch of courses that didn't really work for you, and you know the course creators are kind of like leaving out a bunch of facts and details just so you'll buy their course, and then you find out you need a whole bunch of money to be doing this kind of stuff. Like I want to talk about stuff that's like practical, and what you wanna look at, and you kind of want to determine. I guess the first thing that's easiest to start with is stuff that you know. If you're part of communities of people that need certain stuff, like for example, I don't know much about Pokemon, but if I was someone who knew a lot about Pokemon, I would probably be able to geek out on it and know what kind of content people wanted to hear about Pokemon, because that would have been stuff that I would have wanted to hear too, and I would have known that it doesn't exist. With this type of content, I know that it doesn't exist out there. How people can get truly free methods of making some income, or make, just kind of make something for themselves, where I'm not trying to sell you a course or anything to get the rest of the knowledge. It's like I'm just telling you what works just from the common next door neighbor. you know this is how I would describe it to my neighbor if they were like, hey, I want to do this, I want to make an extra couple $100 here or there, how do I do that? Well, here's some things I've tried that I've still been doing, and they seem to work. So I can tell you what I'm doing, but I can't tell you that all of it's working. I'll know in a while, because some of this stuff, which is why I'm saying I'm posting more regularly, some of this stuff isn't going to come to fruition until I've finished the posting. Like, I have to finish posting all of it first. So, but yeah, it's interesting to try and talk about these topics when, it's not clickbait. I'm not flashing around numbers and getting people to kind of like say, like, how do I make that quick money? Like, it's not always quick, and there are always setbacks with all of these stupid platforms. You're gonna run into some kind of hurdle, some kind of brick wall where you're like, well, now I gotta learn this, or now I gotta wait 5 days for that, or now I gotta wait for this person to respond, or oh, they took my podcast off of Spotify. Now I gotta wait for the support to contact me because they put it up another tier of level of support, and they're looking into it, and I gotta wait about a week, Or TikTok is gone. Like, didn't they do that for like 24 hours? They took TikTok offline. Like, things like that, where it's just like, I think I'm sick of it. I'm sick of getting burned with my time and energy that I don't have, listening to people tell me things that aren't true, and I'm like, I don't want to do that to people. Like, what's the point in that? So I'll tell you about my stupid little projects that maybe make a couple bucks here and there, or maybe make a couple hundred here or there. And I'm not going to clickbait you, but it's realistic. And if it dries up, if I remember to circle back to it, I'll let you know that it dried up. Just like I'm doing with some of the other stuff. It's kind of dried up. I'm not saying Uber Eats has dried up for everybody, but for me it's kind of dried up. And especially considering the car options that I have right now, Uber is not the most lucrative option for me. Time-wise, I'm spending way more time in the car waiting than I would be spending actually creating money, creating profits. And with $6.50 gas, with a car that gets 10 miles to the gallon, I mean, you know, you got to be making more than like $2, $3 just little trips, you know, and they all better be like right within a couple blocks of each other too. Like, you know, every 10 miles is costing me like $6.50, you know, at minimum, if you're not counting all the other repairs and stuff. So, like, future repairs and wear and tear that goes on to the car from that. And insurance rates change when you're doing rideshare types of gigs. So if you report that that's what you're doing, you know, you might start running into some insurance issues. They're gonna start charging you more because they're gonna be like, well, you're driving all the time, so we're gonna make you pay more money. Even if you're not driving all the time, you'll still have to pay more. But those are kind of just the things that I'm like wanting to speak on today, because to me they're important. You know, I do like helping people out. I can't directly help people by doing all their stuff for them, but I can talk about the generals behind it. And I'll talk some more about some of Biahez's old stuff. I wish he would do more of it again. I don't know why he doesn't, but you know, I'm not here to like slam anybody, you know, unless it's something like railroad restrictions or something, then I'm just like, this is complete nonsense. I'm gonna, you know, talk pretty favorably, but I'll talk pretty honestly about my experiences with things. So I want to talk about things that have worked for me, that I've liked, that I've found to be beneficial. And so, all right, thanks for listening.